NHL 24 is finally here, and the first thing we got to go ahead and do is look at all the superstar X factors in NHL 24. So we're going to start with the Anaheim Ducks, and just to let you know, this is on release day on October 3rd, 2023. So we're starting with the Anaheim Ducks. Of course, we got Trevor Zegras, number 11 center, skilled up with the elite lacrosse moves. Puck on a string, it's tricky, and third eye. Next up, John Gibson, who has two abilities, dialed in and showstopper. And then finally, Troy Terry with puck on a string, snipe, and all alone. So the Anaheim Ducks have three. Moving on to the Arizona Coyotes, one of the most underrated players in the league, in my opinion. Mr. Clayton Keller has tape-to-tape zone ability with puck on a string, wheels, and close quarters. And Nick Schmaltz has three superstar abilities, third eye, tape-to-tape, and crease crasher. Obviously, there's probably going to be some players missing in this. And oh, look at this. The Boston Bruins have four superstar X-Factor players and one superstar player. I think the four makes sense. You got Brad Marchand with fully maxed out zone ability and superstar abilities. No contest, ankle breaker, make it snappy, tape to tape, yoink, and quick pick. Charlie McAvoy, one of the highest ranked defensemen in the game with stick 'em up, shut down, send it, tape to tape, bouncer, and ice pack. Next up, we got David Pastrnak, one of the most elite goal scorers in the league right now. Obviously, with the zone ability of a snipe and a couple different shooting traits below. And then Linus Ullmark, the reigning defending Vezina Trophy winner with the instincts, elite shot anticipation, and 5 superstar abilities. So obviously the Boston Bruins are looking pretty damn good right there. And then Hampus Lindholm to round out to make it 5 players for the Boston Bruins. Most likely going to be the most out of any team. The Buffalo Sabres have 4, and it's Rasmus Dahlin, who is, again, one of the top-ranked defensemen, and then Tage Thompson, who had an incredible breakout season, puck on a string, big rig, unstoppable force, elite edges, one-timer, stick 'em up. I think it all makes sense. He's an absolute beauty. Jeff Skinner still around with 3 superstar abilities here. Elite edges, close quarters, make it snappy. And Alex Tuck also gets 2 X-Factor abilities here. Moving on to the Calgary Flames. And Calgary has 5 players with superstar. And let's see. Uyghur, I think that makes sense. Elias Lindholm definitely makes sense. Nazim, the Dream Kadri. Jonathan Huberdeau obviously taking a step down from his previous season where he had 120 points or so. And then Rasmus Anderson will end up rounding up the Calgary Flames. I lost all my words there, but we're going to keep going. Moving on to the Carolina Hurricanes. Okay, there's a lot on Carolina is basically an entire superstar X-Factor team and superstar players. First up, we got Sebastian Aho. In my opinion, is one of the most underrated players in the entire NHL. I think this guy's an absolute stud. Maybe it's because I drafted him in fantasy a couple years ago and he delivered very good results for me, but he has a zone ability of third eye and a bunch of different traits. Jacob Slavin, a good shutdown defender. Andrei Sveshnikov, he's got the skilled up, of course. Snipe, it's tricky, magnetic. Does anyone remember when Andrei Sveshnikov tried fighting Alexander Ovechkin in the playoffs? I don't know why I just thought about it, but that was not nice. Freddie Anderson with another goaltender superstar ability. Brent Burns with the Heat Seeker Thunderclap. Basically all shooting traits and then one passing trait. Martin Nikas with the elite edges. I think this player is going to be really good as well. And then Jordan Stahl got the quick draw. I think that makes sense. One of the best centermen for faceoffs over the past however many years. And then Teuvo Teravainen, great on the breakaways. So Carolina with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 X factors out of a roster of 16, 18, 20, 21. Chicago Blackhawks have Taylor Hall and Seth Jones. So no superstar ability for Connor Bedard, it looks like, as of right now, unless I am definitely missing them. He might be in the AHL, so we'll have to look at that after the video. But Seth Jones and Taylor Hall. Moving on to the Colorado Avalanche, I imagine there's going to be a lot here as well. The Nate Mac Truck, the Mac Dog, obviously going to be one of the highest rated players in the game with Cale Makar, who is a 95 overall, I believe, but definitely both deserving. Mikko Rantanen obviously has that snipe ability, 1T, close quarters, puck on a string, but these 3 are going to be absolutely incredible during the franchise modes if you use them. Bowen Byram only has 1 in reverse, but I think it makes sense for him. You could even probably give it him wheels instead. Georgiev, superstar ability for Hamlet, showstopper, Samuel Girard. This guy is an elite skater. I love watching him play. Gabriel Landeskog. Unfortunately, haven't been able to see him play recently just because injuries. It sucks, but hopefully he can get healthy really soon. Moving on to Valerie Natushikin, big tipper, and then Devon Tays, who probably could have even also had a superstar X Factor ability, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 players. So that's going to be the record now. The Columbus Blue Jackets, Johnny Gaudreau, obviously one of the most elite puck handlers in the entire NHL, and he gets that zone ability for it. Boone Jenner with the faceoffs. Kent Johnson, you got to give him skilled up. That guy is going to score some highlight reel goals. If you're a Columbus fan, this kid is sick. And then we got Patrick Laine, obviously all shooting traits. He's got an unbelievable shot. Zach Rowinski, another premier defenseman in the NHL. Moving on to the Dallas Stars, we got a lot of superstar X Factor players here as well. Okay, Heiskanen. So they weren't cheap with the superstar X Factors. I hope they didn't screw over my team, my boys, the Ottawa Senators. Heiskanen, again, I think ranked top 5 in defensemen in the entire game. So definitely going to get his share of X Factors. Rupi Hintz doesn't get talked about enough, but this guy has been an absolute stud for a while. Jake Ottinger, I definitely pronounced his name wrong. I'm definitely going to get crucified, but that's okay. He is also a stud. I still remember that game against Calgary where he had 70 shots in game 7 and they lost in overtime. That was probably what put him on the map. Joe Pavelski, you got to have big tipper. Exactly, there it is. And those jerseys on the right are so clean. I love them. I don't know what you guys think, but those jerseys on the right are absolutely beautiful. Makes sense with the big tipper. Jason Robertson, probably their best player. The Leafs are hoping Nick Robertson ends up like this guy, but it just dominates. He was pace for pace with Connor McDavid for majority of the year. Then McDavid kind of went to another level. And then Jamie Benn is going to round out their X Factor. Oh, they got Matt Duchene out here too. I forgot Matt Duchene went to the Dallas Stars. Going to the Detroit Red Wings, Dylan Larkin, got to have wheels. Yep, elite edges, make it snappy, quick draw, born leader. It's one of the first people I've seen with born leader unless I missed a couple. And then the former Ottawa Senator, Alex DeBrincat, moving all over to the Detroit Red Wings, has ankle breaker, wheels, make it snappy, magnetic, and all alone. And then big Mo Sider, doesn't have a superstar X Factor this year, but still going to be a really good player. The Edmonton Oilers, there we go. 2 superstar X Factor players. I think they're the 2 highest ranked players in the game with Cale Makar. You got Leon Draisaitl, tape to tape, one of the best passers in the NHL, hands down, bar none. We got unstoppable force back at you, 1T snipe, third eye, and then Connor McDavid. We got wheels, ankle breaker, puck on a string, make it snappy, tape to tape, magnetic. You could probably add 15 more of these things on him. He is unbelievable. When are we going to put him in 99 overall? That's my question in the video. When is Connor McDavid going to be a 99 overall? How can he get better than he is? 150 points last season. Evan Bouchard, who had a really good year last year, kind of stepping up as their number 1 defender, gets a nice bonus. Matthias Ekholm, again, we were looking at terrible defense for a while. It's not looking that way anymore. Zach Hyman, definitely the unstoppable force. Just going to keep crashing that crease. Gotta love Zach Hyman. RNH, former first overall pick, coming off a really good year as well, and a good year before that with 100 points. I mean, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins doesn't get talked about enough because of how good this team is, but he's a stud. Darnell Nurse, one of the highest paid defensemen in the league. Is he worth it? I'm an Edmonton fan. I prefer Evan Bouchard as of right now, but he does deliver that hard body, that grit playoff performance that you probably need. Moving on to the Florida Panthers, we got Matt Tkachuk and Alexander Barkov. Tkachuk, obviously, coming out party this last playoffs. He was electric, arguably one of the best players, if not the best player in the NHL during that playoff run. Barkov, everyone says underrated. I think he's perfectly rated now. He's nasty. He's just nasty. Sergei Bobrovsky, don't need to say too much about him, but he is a stud. Aaron Ekblad, former first overall pick. Brandon Montour, who had a really good postseason as well, has scored a couple big goals against the Boston Bruins to keep the Florida Panthers in it to make a 3-1 comeback series. 3-1 series comeback. That's how you say it. Sam Reinhart, an underrated, underused player in most people's eyes, but I think Sam Reinhart's been an absolute stud. Carter Verhaeghe, again, another guy who had an amazing playoff run. All these guys kind of benefiting from going all the way to the Stanley Cup playoffs or Stanley Cup finals. The LA Kings, Philip Deneau, definitely going to have quick draw. There it is. Drew Doughty doesn't have an X factor, but still a premier defenseman in the league. Kevin Fiala, Adrian Kempe, who came back from, I'm an Edmonton fan as well since. So I remember him playing Edmonton. He came back. This guy was an instant game changer. Instant game changer. Kempe is good. Anze Kopitar, no leadership trait for him, which was kind of surprising. Moving on to the Minnesota Wild. They got a lot. Kapril, the Thrill, Kaprizov. Or Kirill, sorry, not Kapril. Kirill, the Thrill, Kaprizov. Definitely their best point producer. I actually really like this kid, Matt Boldy. I think he's going to be really good for the team. Jonas Brodin, Joel Eriksson Ek, Marc-Andre Fleury, all or nothing. I like that. Contortionist, definitely agree with that. Frederick Gaudreau, all alone on breakaway. I don't watch too many Minnesota games, so let me know if Gaudreau should have a breakaway trait. That's pretty funny. And Philip Gusterson, the former Ottawa Senators goalie that we traded for Cam Talbot. Oh no. Jared Spurgeon, one of the more underrated captains in the league. Not a lot of people talk about this guy, but really, really good. And then Matt Zuccarello, who somehow just always puts up 70 to 80 points every year when he's healthy. It doesn't make sense, but he does what he has to do. And on a very nice contract. I think it's $4 to $6 million, somewhere in that range. The Montreal Canadiens, you got Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki. Caulfield obviously with the shooting categories, Suzuki with the passing and the no contest. I think those are two really good players. The Nashville Predators, Roman Josi, the most handsome man in the NHL, but just going to have to say that there. And UC Saros, one of the better goalies in the league, of course, rated high every single year, ever since taking over from Pekka Rinne. And Philip Forsberg, who's got the best stash for so far that we've seen. Saros is pretty good, but Forsberg, that's good stuff. Moving on to the New Jersey Devils, Jack Hughes definitely going to be leading the way here, as he was labeled as a bust for about 1 to 2 years, which is crazy. He was 18 years old coming into the league, but last year he showed that he is one of the most dominant offensive players in the league. Elite edges, angle breaker, puck on a string, wheels, tape to tape, and relentless. Jesper Bratt, one of my favorite players in the New Jersey Devils. I think this guy is a stud all around. Puts up somehow 70 points every year. Hall has been really good too for the Devils. Nico Hischier, big captain. Timo Meier, who came over in the trade from the San Jose Sharks. Tyler Toffoli, who is also, I believe, came over last year, and I want to say from Montreal, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm sorry. And then Vitek Vanacek, who came from the, I want to say, Washington Capitals. Moving on to the New York Islanders, who actually have quite a bit of these superstar X Factor players. So we got Matt Barzal, who is obviously their most electric player. Adam Pelech, who is in their top 10 for left defenseman rankings, at, I believe, 88 overall. Very not talked about a lot, but look at that haircut. It's a stud haircut. And then Ilya Sorokin, I think top 5 in goaltenders for sure in the league. Definitely a game changer and definitely deserving of all of those attributes. Bo Horvat, who came over from the Vancouver Canucks, gets on 5 superstar abilities. Brock Nelson, Jean-Gabriel Pageau with the faceoffs, Ryan Pulock. So nice little additions there for the New York Islanders. The Rangers, I'm imagining having a lot. Captain Jacob Trouba, we'll start from the bottom here, has Ice Pack and Truculence, definitely a big hitter. And I mean, Trouba is, I remember the fight, center ice, him versus the Chuck, that was a crazy fight. Vinny Trocheck with the face-off one. Chris Kreider, obviously big tipper in there, yep. And then Mika Zibanejad with magnetic. Igor Shesterkin, I believe the second highest overall goalie after Andre Vasilevsky. And then Artemi Panarin, and they should have one more here, and it's Adam Fox, tape to tape, one of the best offensive defensemen in the game. Got him at a steal at the draft, and I mean, he just somehow puts up 3 assists tonight. The Ottawa Senators, my favorite squad here. Timmy Stu, that's what I like to see. Puck on a string, leading in the way. Make it snappy, schneip, third eye, tape to tape, and magnetic. And then Brady Tkachuk, the big bruiser on the squad. We got Thomas Chabot with a couple abilities. Claude Giroux with 5 abilities. Vladimir Tarasenko with 4 abilities. I'm surprised that's it for the Sens, but that's okay. That's okay. We're going to grow into a Stanley Cup contender this year, hopefully, or just make the playoffs. Please, 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 please. Moving on to the Philadelphia Flyers. Sean Couturier, Carter Hart, who's most likely going to be Canada's goalie, and Travis Konechny. No complaints here. I think Couturier is a really good player. Some injuries, unfortunately. Pittsburgh, we're going to see Sid the Kid, and they picked up an absolute stud in the offseason. Erik Karlsson, welcome to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Can't skip over Jake Gensel as well. Just somehow always scores goals. Evgeny Malkin still doing what he does. to 15 years into his career, no problem. I used to be a huge Malkin fan. I'm not a Malkin fan anymore, but Malkin, I got to go for the Sens. Ever since they lost in that 2017 run, it was ridiculous. Lars Eller next up, former Washington Capital, Chris Letang, who will be an offensive unit with Erik Karlsson on that power play. Moving on to the San Jose Sharks, just one, and it's Thomas Hertl, Teenage Mutant Ninja Hertl. We're moving on to the Kraken here, and they have a bunch of superstar abilities. Jarrett McCann, who was unfortunately injured last playoff run. Adam Larson, Yanni Gord, Jordan Eberle, one of my favorite Team Canada players ever. Vinny Dunn, and Matty Berners. Moving on to the St. Louis Blues, Pavel Buchnevich, Kevin Hayes, the big body, Jordan Kyrou, who I really like, and Robert Thomas. I wouldn't be upset if one of these players were, or both were superstar X Factors, in my opinion. The Tampa Bay Lightning, gonna have a lot here. Got Victor Hedman as an X Factor, Nikita Kucherov, Braden Point, Steven Stamkos, who, is he returning to the Tampa Bay Lightning? I know he kind of feels a little disrespected here, but would it be crazy for him not to want to rejoin this team, even if it's on a one-year cheaper deal? It's an interesting thought. And then Andrei Vasilevsky, top goaltender in the league as for overalls. And then we have Mikhail Sergachev, who has a lot of abilities as well. The Toronto Maple Leafs. I thought Matthews was bald in the game. I didn't see the black hair. I kind of laughed. Mitch Marner, I think he kind of got screwed. He could have had another superstar ability. I don't know why he only has 4. I mean, he could have had more. Austin Matthews is going to have all the shooting categories. In my opinion, one of the best shooters, if not the best shooter in the entire league. We got Tyler Bertuzzi, a little grit. Willie Nylander, who had an incredible playoff run to finally get them past that first round. Morgan Riley, again, another player I thought had a good playoff run. John Tavares, the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs, often criticized, but I think is very efficient. I'm sorry, Leafs fans, but there probably could have been one more. I'm not going to say, but there probably could have been more. We got the Vancouver Canucks, Quinny Hughes, one of the Hughes brothers who was electric last year. I think had 80 assists, 70 assists, something crazy like that. If it wasn't for Karlsson, probably had a good chance of winning the Norris himself. Peterson, or Elias Peterson, has really become his own. I know 2 years ago had a rough year. Kind of people were wondering if he was going to be big enough. Last year shows up as one of the better players in the league, and I think this year he's only going to get better. Thatcher Demko, once a highly touted prospect, still pretty good though. Andrei Kuzmenko, this guy came in from the KHL and scored 35 goals, so you got to respect it. And it was all close quarters and big tipping, so that is perfect. Ilya Mikheyev, who's coming from, I believe, the Toronto Maple Leafs 2 years ago. Get ones. JT Miller, the Vegas Golden Knights. Okay, they have, I mean, as reigning defending Stanley Cup champions, you're going to get a little bit of a boost to your overalls, right? We got Jack Eichel, Alex Pietrangelo, and Mark Stone, who had the hat trick in the clinching Stanley Cup game. Then we got William Karlsson, Jonathan Marchessault, who played unbelievable. I believe he even brought home the Conn Smythe Trophy. Alec Martinez, Braden McNabb, Chandler Stevenson, and Shea Theodore. So, I mean, 3 defensemen up there, 4 defensemen. So 4 of their top 6 are X Factors, which is insane. And the Washington Capitals, the 2 at the helm are, wow, I'm surprised they're missing one player there. But Sean Carlson and Alexander Ovechkin. In my opinion, Karlsson's been robbed of the Norris Trophy at least 2 times. He is an absolute stud. Obviously, getting a little bit older. Ovechkin, the greatest goal scorer of our generation, the greatest goal scorer of all time, in my opinion. Kuznetsov, TJ Sochi, always going to get that zone or that superstar ability from that 1 year in Sochi in the Olympics, and Tom Wilson. But what I am seeing here is no Nick Backstrom, which is a surprise in my opinion, but that's okay. The Winnipeg Jets, the final squad here. Kyle Connor, look at the stash, look at the hair. The guy's a stud. He's a goal scorer. Winnipeg, in my opinion, has disappointed for several years. I always felt like they were a decently dark horse team, but never really able to get over that hump. Connor Hellebuck, a top goaltender in that league. Nikolai Ehlers, Josh Morrissey, and Mark Scheifele. Those are all the superstar X Factor players in NHL 24. Let me know who's missing down in the comments below, and let me know if you disagree with any of the superstar X Factors, and let's get into some more NHL 24 content. I'll see you next time.